I wanna innovate what I'm gonna. You can hate all you wanna, but you're still in your pajama now. I ain't a prima donna, but I built what I wanna. You can say my vision's wrong, the tune of my song. Broke my thumb, bang it to my own drum. Broke my thumb, bang it to my own drum. Broke my thumb, bang it to my own drum. Hoop in a clapping, boots I am a strapping. A click click clacking, hurrah! Bootstrapping in America, yeah, bootstrapping in America.
Thomas, we are back, my friend.
I'm Tom Sosnoff. He's Tony Batista. You're listening to Get Tasted, and this is our bootstrapping in Chicago today.
That's correct.
You're the worst bootstrapper ever. You're not a bootstrapper.
You think?
Yeah. Bootstrappers are
not measured by success here. I don't think.
No.
He's talking about more on a monetary bootstrap on how
I can't
start.
say that Howard Tolman is a bootstrapper. In all fairness, that'd
Howard,
be like
what
saying,
I have to do is interpret what Tom says to the
I was going to
audience who
say,
doesn't listen.
I think we're a bootstrapper because one of the rules that I have is I don't use my own money in these deals, and I think that I don't have to be the banker. And so that always puts us in this sort of cash-strapped position where it makes us be conscious of our cost. And it feels like a startup. It feels like bootstrapping in every single business.
Okay, and I'm on the same page, and I think that that's also important because I think there's also a drive there. But let's put it this way. Most classic bootstrappers are still figuring out how they're going to eat this weekend. Is it eat or it has to come? Hey, you at least have the second piece of that puzzle solved. All right.
Okay. Well, that's true. But I think that, it's really, it grows out of feeling that it's somebody else's money. And that's really the responsibility, and that never goes away. If you're really an entrepreneur, you have some responsibilities to the business, some responsibilities to the people, but mainly you have responsibilities to your investors.
And I think that's really fair. I think in the trading world, a lot of us don't like to manage other people's money because we feel uncomfortable with the level. We feel comfortable with the level of risk we take for ourselves.
Exactly.
We feel uncomfortable trying to explain what we do to a third party.
Yeah, exactly.
In the world of entrepreneurship or the world of just building, you build things. You build things. I mean,
Sure.
if you were to define you build things. And in that world, I think it's different. I think there's a certain it's part of it's relationship based, and part of it's just it's what drives you.
Well, when you talk about explaining, I'll tell you. So in the book, one of the chapters of the book, and it's bite-sized, by the way. It's really
this is
really tiny. You can read
even
it
Tony
on the
can
train.
read this book.
I know.
In one sitting, which
I know.
is typically,
that's why it's volume
on my
one. There's
throne.
more to come on the throne. That's exactly right.
He really does have a throne, just so you know.
I believe it. Okay. But in the book, I talk about, is your business plan a roadmap or a roadblock? And the idea is that you got to be able to change it. And a lot of investors think it was written, in stone and in concrete, and that's the plan. And they hold your feet to the fire like, well, you're diverging from the plan. But if you don't learn in the course of building your business, and if you're not flexible enough to take advantage of changing circumstances, it's just stupid. It's like,
Sure.
It's like consistency requires you to be just as stupid as you were a year ago.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
the idea that you have to be flexible and that you look at the plan, in the movie business, we have this great expression, which is the screenplay is never the movie that gets made, but it's what gets the movie made, right? So it's the funding vehicle and it's the starting point, but that's all it is.
I can't remember a business like we talk about Thinkorswim sometimes, and we say when we built Thinkorswim, we were like, we had no idea who the first couple of business plans we put together were for a different customer. When we built Tasty Trade, our initially, we had a different revenue. Everything changes. We had a woman on 2 days ago who was really interesting. She goes, you know what? I had this great idea, but my model didn't work, so I changed it.
Sure.
And we're like, well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Right. And investors will tell you, well, it's awesome that you changed it as long as the change works. If the change doesn't work, you stink. You never stuck to your model.
I didn't invest in you for that reason.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit. So how's the book?
The book is doing great. It's, I just wrote it sort of as a lark. I mean, what was happening was I was doing these posts for Inc., and I would write 1,000 or 1,500 words, and they would turn it into 600 words. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's all this extra value that you're like shrinking my pearls of wisdom. So I said, all right, well, then I'm going to take the longer versions, and I'm going to just put it into a quick book. It's so astonishing that sites like eCreate and these new sites that in 15 minutes you can take a text and turn it into a book and, immediately load it up
Don't
to
tell that
Amazon.
to our listeners because they're going to be like, you tell that to our listeners, going to be like, how come you guys don't have
You
a
could
book?
do it. You could do. I mean, honestly, you'd be amazed. And it's on Amazon. It's doing great. And it's just the first of a series of these things. But I think that that we're seeing a change in sort of self-publishing that's really going to be revolutionary.
But isn't that like just going to be? Isn't that part of this trend towards the whole? We're moving in a direction where the whole world of content is going to be so amazing over the next decade or so, because now we have all these vehicles to deliver content where before it was cost prohibitive and now it's not. That's kind of what you're saying.
Well, look, so the new change that I've been talking about lately is we're moving beyond social. When we started,
Totally agree.
the web was about anonymous links. Okay, it was about information. When Facebook came along, it became about people. Okay, that's phase 2. That's the social graph. Where we're moving, and it's Pinterest Friday, I know. So where we're moving is really to the interest graph, because I already know all the demographic stuff about you. What I want to know is, what are you interested in? Because what you're interested in and what you pay attention to is going to tell me everything I need to know about you as a buyer, as a customer, as a client. And so the interest graph, Pinterest, and all the different things. I mean, this is why Facebook, they launched collections, which is really their Pinterest killer, right? And they launched GIFs. And GIFs, the crazy thing about GIFs is how instructive GIFs are about the relationship. You get the person's address at the other end. You get all kinds of additional data when you get your finger into the GIF world.
Are they too late to the party?
Not on GIFs. I mean, they bought Karma.
I saw.
Lightbank,
we talked about it the other day.
Lightbank invested in Boomerang. I think Boomerang is a so what, relative to Karma. But Facebook is never too late to the game. They sort of have that Microsoft model that eventually we'll get it right. And because we're the 800-pound gorilla with 1 billion members, we'll figure out how to make this a meaningful tool.
Yeah, we've been trading Facebook from the long side for the whole year. I mean,
sure.
We just got back to even with the last earnings report, so we've lowered our cost basis from mid-30s down to low 20s. So now we're finally back to even, and I'm extremely bullish on Facebook for the next, whatever you want to call it. They could be the new Apple.
Well, Mark, he had a great conference. I mean, he actually started talking about making money. He started saying a lot of things.
He's learning. He's growing up.
He's learning about that, and I think they have some good ideas on mobile. And I think mobile is going to be everything. I mean, so I think that I think that Facebook is a great story, and I think it's
so. You're
that way
the
for
consummate junkie in this kind of space, and we like to talk about public companies because that's something we can actually play with.
Sure.
And so when you look out at the public space, I think I asked you the same thing last time, but when you look out at the public space right now, like what just jumps out at you like, hey, I got to own this?
Well, look, I mean, for sure, you were talking about Amazon. I'm very strong on Amazon. I think that Amazon and Jeff is just a very, very smart guy. And Prime is such a winner. Prime is such a painless way to turn something that was essentially a cost center into a locked-in device that really is going to drive this connection, this lifetime service connection to customers. That I love the Amazon story, I really do, and I think Facebook is a great story. And I think, to me, there aren't going to be a whole lot of these things. So I'm sort of like, pick a few and go deep. I think, you don't want to be a mile wide and an inch deep. I don't think that's a strategy.
We're a
for
mile
success.
wide and an inch deep.
I know. Well, that's okay.
That's the story of our life.
I know. Well, I understand the theory, but I mean, I just think that if you're a real believer, I mean, I think that, on the other side, I think the car guys still don't get it at all. I mean, I think that watching a 25-year-old kid today, the amount of interest they have in a vehicle, other than as a unit of transportation, they don't give a shit about it. I mean, it's just horrible.
Should they? Like, do you care? I don't care.
Well, you care. You grew up though in a culture that cared. Your car was a statement about you.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So now the only people that a car is a statement about are a small group of people that are painting cars in California, and the Hispanic population. It's really interesting. That's still an area where that's an expression for whatever reason. That's what the
cultural thing.
demographic.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
The rest of these kids are like, and this is what Rahm is bragging about. 100 miles of protected bike paths is going to make us a great city. He's saying that this generation wants to commute, by bike. They want to get around. They just absolutely, they're deferring getting their licenses. They're deferring, buying cars,
it's true.
the whole deal.
It's true.
So,
my son didn't care about getting his license. I was there the first day when we turned 16.
Right.
Exactly.
And my
That's the same
kids,
way.
my kids don't care about cars. We were like, the car we got when we were kids.
I know, but that was
that
our
defined us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it defined us.
exactly.
It was also
Exactly.
it was also our independence
Right.
because you had no other place to go to get independence. I mean, now I'm sitting at dinner with my kids and they're independent, even though I'm in the room with them sitting at the table because they're on their phones or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I had this, the last vestige that a car was meaningful to me was I was taking a lot of crap about buying only foreign cars. So my wife is like, you should buy a U.S. car. You should buy So I bought a Viper. I said, it's Chrysler parts. She was like, you can't drive this car anywhere. It has no door locks. It has no windows. It has no roof. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, which one is the Viper?
The Viper is the one that basically has the wheels that are exposed
Right.
outside.
What the hell did you do with that car?
So I had it for 300 miles. It was number 12. It was hand built, and I sold it. But
Oh, okay.
I couldn't even drive it down the ramp into my garage. The front bay was so
bottom out.
low it would bottom.
No,
Well, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. And then, what do you think? So we've kind of seen this as we continue to watch kind of all these companies evolve in the marketplace. Having all these questions about when you get to the public marketplace. There's just so many damn questions about companies that have gone. There's no companies that are just kind of knocking out of the ballpark when they first go
Here's
public.
what I would say is another broad category, which is the information companies, the big guys, ComScore, these kinds of guys. I mean, information is going to drive everything. I say that, personal data is the oil of the digital age, but even more to the point, with high velocity computing, what's happening is it's not simply impacting stock trading, okay? Everything is going to be driven by the ability in real time. So Safeway on their website for groceries offers you a different price based on your profile for the same groceries, right? Now here's the killer. Do they offer you a better price if you're a frequent shopper? No, because you're already in the tank. You're already buying Kleenex. They offer the cheaper price to the Charmin guy because they want to convert him to the Kleenex promotion, right? Yeah. So the ability to do that in real time says to me that all kinds of interactions, this is the famous, Orbitz finally admitted that if you come into Orbitz on a Mac, they send you higher hotel prices and offers than if you're on a PC. Well, that's real-time, high-velocity computing. And so the companies that are getting on top of the management of these huge amounts of data and being able to push profiling to the front instant of, contact, even some of the local companies, Local Offer Network here, a startup, is saying that the first time you come to a website, they've already got enough information to give you exactly the right offer. That's a huge move because it's going to make commerce and everything change in new ways. I mean, it's not going to be one size fits all.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
These are all good things. There's nothing.
Well, they're the death of fixed pricing, truthfully.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's all variable.
In fact, the death of fixed pricing will be so with all this stuff, and let's look at a bigger picture, kind of a macro picture. With all this stuff now, what's going to hold us back? Like, is it what's going to be? Why are we going to go? Why is everybody so bearish? Why are we going to go? Why are we going to go backwards? Why are we just going to explode?
I don't think we have an education strategy, and I don't think we have a world strategy. I mean, I think we're still minding too much of other people's business. I just was at a presentation for a company that used to only provide rural medical services, dental care, and things like that internationally, and they've come back here and they're providing it locally in Appalachia and places in this country where we don't have health care that's worth anything. And they're restricted, bizarrely. They have doctors, but doctors are restricted by these stupid laws that say if you're a doctor in Texas, you can't practice in New Mexico or whatever. So, but putting that aside, we have a lot of structural issues here. We really do. And so I think people have this anxiety about how are the cities going to deal with the fact that most of them are financially insolvent? How are we going to deal with these huge issues of education? We're number who knows what, these days in terms of the competitive
13th,
world global economy, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think that those are large systemic issues that are restraints. I mean, in terms of pure business, I think you're right. I think that that it's cheaper, it's faster, it's easier. I say that the barriers to entry are virtually non-existent.
Yeah,
The
you said that
barriers to
last time you were here.
success, equally tough.
Yeah.
But the idea that people are constantly riffing on businesses and iterating and making them better and faster, I mean, that's exciting. That's really the age we live in.
And that's what I don't get about, like, everybody thinking we're like, I never understood this whole fiscal cliff thing, because I feel like it's the exact opposite. There's going to be this massive explosion because businesses have become so much more efficient due to the advances we made in technology that are, we joke about it.
So it's hard to be an optimistic contrarian, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
But we joke
that's
about
what we
it.
learned.
We joke about it in this business because we get all these people that talk about high frequency trading.
Yeah.
And they talk about high frequency trading. It's horrible. It takes, it steals money from you. It does this and that. When we can't figure it out, because we think the exact opposite, and we're trying to figure out, like, the technology that we're using today to place orders with is all because of high frequency trading, and the liquidity and the efficiency of the markets is all because of high frequency trading. Who doesn't want it?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
all it's going to do is push us up, 1, 2, 3 years ahead of time, and then everybody's talking about it as, oh, this is a bad thing.
Well,
Let's
so
regulate it.
I have this issue all the time with grandparents. They're like, I'm not giving my personal information to anybody. And I'm like, well, let me ask you this simple question. Do you want the paramedic, when he's treating you on the street, to have your allergy information and all your medical information at his fingertips? Or do you want to wait for an hour until you get to the hospital and die, right? I mean, so, we're going to win this war, because as medical information and as financial information move to part of your real profile on the real web, where you really have to be you today, all of this, sort of authentic identity is going to be, driving just a different world. I mean, we're, and all of it is exciting. Every relationship we have. But I think, I don't know if I said this the last time or not, I don't think there's products anymore. I think every product is actually a service. Because if you do it right, it's a continuing relationship with the customer, and you should be teeing up the next sale, the next interaction.
Yeah.
You want to own those relationships,
You talk a lot about customer service, and that's something that Tom's always said to me about, customer service being, no matter what your business is, whether it's brokerage firm, media, whatever it is, you're in the customer service business.
Here's what I would say. Free isn't cheap enough, okay? If you don't provide real value, I'm too busy. And so you got to say, in my relationship, you have to save me money, save me time, make me more productive. Otherwise, you can say it's free all the time. It's a waste of my time, right? So that idea of customer service, it really means building a value exchange where there's a reason that I will give you information that makes it more meaningful and locks me in. Because the more you get from me, the more locked in I am. The more I share that experience with other people, the more efficient the whole system becomes. And all of that is data driven.
So I'm just going to go just a different direction for a second. If all this is true, which I believe, then the world of evolving content and developing content falls back right into your kind of game plan with, Tribeca Flashpoint and the whole kind of the ability to produce content.
Absolutely. We think we're training the next generation. We think there's not a single business in the world that isn't migrating from analog to digital everything. And we think the people that drive that train are the kids we're training right now. And, I was just with the president of Northwestern, and I said, look, Morty, if you think that the medical school's requirements for digital media are any less than the journalism school, you don't understand what's going on. This is changing everything.
Which is, in the education system here, you mentioned earlier, but it's so hard to change curriculum. It's so hard to change because you have to make a ridiculous capital commitment to just change the simplest of all curriculum.
It's only because of the old days. That's Texas and California.
That's right.
Here's how curriculum is going to change. Today, every kid in America has already figured out that there's better instruction available on the web as to virtually anything than there is in the classroom. And
No
we're
question
going to
about it.
have to make those assets available in the classroom. Otherwise, we're going to lose that war. Kids are going to say, why would I go to school? And, I always talk about the blue-haired teacher, the piano teacher, right? So she was going to teach me, whether I wanted to or not, how to boil the cabbage down or some friggin' atonal thing, And I'm like, if you taught me yesterday, I already know the song, I know the timing, I know the words. Give me a break, And so you go on the web now, and Paul McCartney will teach you yesterday, right? and show you how to play it on the guitar or on the piano. This is the competition for education too. And anybody, Marshall McLuhan said, anybody who thinks that education is different from entertainment doesn't understand either one, right?
That's true.
That's what's going on. We have to make it exciting and immersive. Otherwise, the kids are history.
Okay, this guy, you should be full time in the show because we could have so much fun, but then we wouldn't discuss markets at all, and everybody would be pissed off at us. Because I could have this discussion for like a gazillion. By the way, how is everything going? How's the school
Everything's
going?
doing great. We got about 600 kids. They're getting great jobs. They're
It's awesome.
Going into both regular corporations to
Gotta
help
be
in
amazingly
interactive media.
rewarding.
The reward comes from these notes from the parents who are like, my kid was a slacker and now he's this little martinet who says things like, we don't settle. And there's a right way to do things. And it's like, what are you feeding my kid? And we're like, well, you know what? He's doing what he wants to do. And he's surrounded by his peers. And it's pretty easy. You just get out of these kids' way. And it's very exciting. So it is rewarding. It's been a lot of fun.
It's awesome. He's Howard Tolman, and this is his latest book.
Yeah, I guess.
And man, it's incredible to have you on the show. You guys should, if you're listening, you should Google Howard and check him out. He's I'm not going to do it justice, so just Google him, check him out, and that's the beautiful thing about the web.
Right, that's exactly right.
And hopefully we can have you on here as much as possible, as much as humanly possible. Thanks,
I'm happy
Howard.
to be here.
Thanks.
Thanks, Howard. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Good trade, bad trade.